I was wondering, of all the characters you've written, which one do you maybe identify with most? Which one do you like, and maybe why?
Huh. No, Marsupius is a wicked. Come on, he's a wicked fellow. Let's face it. That's a good question, because really all of my characters are sides of my human nature. Some of them redeemed, some of them in great struggle. One of my primary purposes in writing is to discover my own rescue. Well, in the rescue that we all have experienced and are experiencing every day and will until the day we die, that rescue from evil, which continues, it's central to our being, and I want to rediscover that over and over. It's so easy to forget it. It's so easy to forget the pits from which we came. And in order for me to discover it, I need to make it real. And the only way to make it real is to actually have these two forces pitted against each other that really are, on one hand, evil, on the other hand, good. Sometimes confused about whether or not they're evil and good, just like in our own lives. So this creates a very real environment. It makes the stories actually come to life for me. It's not just a Sunday school story, not that they're bad, but it's not just a story I've heard 1,000 times. It's a fresh, new story about the same truths that we have read about in our own redemptive history. So it's very important for me to write characters. I say all that to say, it's very important for me to write characters that are on, that represent different parts of my own journey. So we do have Marsupius Black. Evil is seductive. Whether it seduces you with humor. Today, in today's culture, humor is a huge force of seduction. You watch all kinds of YouTube videos, you get people making light of all kinds of things, and everyone's laughing. And it is funny, but they're being gross and vile at the same time. But it's all okay, because it's funny. You know what I'm saying? And I laugh too. But at the same time, I go, whoa, wait a second. This is sick. Sickness is best covered by humor often. That's why Marsupius Black exists, because that is reality. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? And the same thing on the other side. My favorite characters would absolutely be those characters who are rescued from complete demise, like Shalise. I love the fact that Thomas fell in love with Shalise when she was who she was. That picture is, I love it, and I'm obsessed with it, and I will continue to write images of the unlovely being loved, because that's me. Next question.
What kind of events or inspiration led you to decide to write Adam?
Oh. Not an exorcism. Most of my stories take several years to develop. It's very hard for me to say, well, this is why I wrote that. I write to discover. I don't have, oh my goodness, am I a person who ever sits down and says, oh, the church needs to learn this? There's other people that are fantastic at doing that. Let Max Lucado do that. Let John Eldridge do that. I write to discover. It's a different side of discovery. It's a different side of learning the truth. It's a different way. It's through story. And usually it's something that I work through for several years. And then when it becomes something, when the issue becomes so burning within me that I'm either crushed by it or overjoyed by it, only then will I embrace it and put flesh and blood on it and create a story, which then you take and complete. Okay, so Adam was one of those stories where it's like, okay, if all these people are saying that God doesn't exist, the supernatural really isn't that real, and what about this whole thing called demon possession? Does evil possess people today? Where are they? I mean, do I need to go down to the, which corner do I need to visit to see these people? Where should I go? I want to see if, okay? So, and over time I said, okay, I began to read about it. And as I read about it, I became horrified. The stories really disturb me. They shook me. I mean, they right down to my spirit. I actually began to have nightmares at one point when I started writing that novel myself. And not because of what I was writing, but because of what I was reading. And novels like Adam are born out of those kinds of experiences in my own life. And I found in Adam that overwhelming redemptive power that delivers us from that nasty, 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 very real phenomenon called possession. And more importantly than that, the agnosticism that is shattered by a confrontation with evil that is so real, so disturbing, so undeniable that you can never again say, it doesn't really exist. Yeah? Spend one night, in a dark room with one of them. You will never say that again. Or read Adam.
You write stories that are beautiful, but they're very connected with God, with the person of God. And what is your process to connect your stories with God, or with Eliot?
My stories are all connected to God and to Jesus because our reality is very simple, in my view. God created us to love Him and to love us. Okay? He created us to love and be loved. This is life. This is it. That's it, really. And how could I write a story? I'm writing some novels for secular novels for a New York publisher, Hachette, in Center Street. And you guys are going to meet them later today. And those stories too, I cannot write anything that is not really 100% saturated with the spiritual element that is truth. So I could never not write a story that is not somehow connected to God's love, God's power in our lives. It's just, it takes 6 months to write a novel. I honestly don't understand people who write novels that aren't connected to God. I get it, I just could never do that. On the other hand, I will write novels that a lot of people think, well, where's God? Where's God in this? I said, dude, everywhere. Every page, well, every chapter at least. Well, at least in the climax. No, it all exists for that connection. If you don't see it, ask your teenager. They see it. Yeah, fair enough? But everyone does. You have to be a little bit blind not to see the connection. And there's a lot of blind people out there, by the way. That's okay. They're still really sampling some great truth that is, my purpose isn't to win them. That's not why I'm doing this. I'm just telling the truth. What happens from there is up to the co-creator and God Himself. I must be true to what I do. Does that make sense? Is that okay?
Yeah.